Happy Friday, and welcome here to another edition of Husker Online Headlines. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, getting ready for the big Husker Games weekend where Mr. Sipple opted out of fielding a live punt. I am going to bite the bullet.
Good job. What kind of shoes are you going to wear?
I don't even know.
Well, let me counsel you. Don't wear tennis shoes of some sort.
What I don't know is is it just one rep or do we get multiple opportunities?
Good God. You'd think it would just be one. And I think it's coming out of a jugs machine, which should be
a little bit more manageable.
Yeah.
As long as the wind's not bad.
Yeah. It's not supposed to be. The wind's supposed to be under 10 miles an
hour.
hour.
All right. So, I give myself about a 50-50 chance.
Yeah. Thanks for doing it.
All right. Kevin Suits and Mitch Sherman and Damon Benning, I think, are doing it as well. But before we get into our show, and we have a guest to lead off with, Husker Online Headlines brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. If you're not familiar with StayHome.Care, they are there for you, your loved ones. They can do everything, provide assistance with things at home, cooking, cleaning, give you a ride to a doctor's appointment, provide companionship. They're there for you and your loved ones. It's never too early to call and learn about the services they offer. We've heard that many of our listeners have inquired, and we appreciate that, and they appreciate that as well. Call them at 402-205-2233. That's stayhome.care. Again, that's 402-205-2233. Our heart is with you because we put our heart into everything we do. Your home, our care, stayhome.care. All right, let's get into it. Headline one. We wanted to do this on draft week. Let's welcome in Michael Severe, the executive director of the Jet Foundation, also the host of Big Red Wrap-Up, which we work together on Tuesday nights. I think it's 17 Tuesdays we spend together, Michael.
We do it, but it's not enough, Sean. I'd like to spend more time with you. That's why I always watch the show.
To the point where we get tired of we get tired of Valentino's pizza. We every Tuesday we walk home with a large pizza.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that. I am sad that I didn't have the opportunity to catch a punt, though. But Damon's knee is bothering him, and I told him if he can't do it, please sign me up because I would love to catch a punt. It was my idea, and nobody asked me to do it. It was my idea.
Wait, how old are you?
I'm 55, but I guarantee you I'll catch the punt. And I'm thinking about catching it behind my back because I did that twice in the Superdome as a kid. I think I could do it again.
Well, and Johnny Rogers, you could have him out there representing the Jet Foundation, counseling you, coaching you up in this big moment for the executive director of the Jet.
Yeah. I might catch it with one hand. I am excited about catching a punt. I have great hands.
Keith Mann, if you got time.
Keith Mann, get me in there.
Put him in the show.
I want to do it. I'm volunteering.
This is Michael Severe putting me to shame right now.
Sipple's all worried about looking bad, Michael.
Oh, don't care about that. The thing I would worry about is going onto a baseball field and having to throw a pitch perfectly from 6 feet 6 inches. That worries me. But catching a football, Sip, that's in our DNA, brother. We can do that. We can do it. Okay, you know we can do it.
All right, well, let's get in.
Bless you. It's really nice to see you.
Let's get into it.
Don't get off track, because Sean will correct you quickly, like he does with you all the time.
Well, we've known you, Michael, for over 20 years, and you've always kind of been the resident draft expert in this area. I mean, I know a lot of people that like NFL and football and draft. You are up there as far as anyone I know, as far as the detail, the research you do. First of all, just your general thoughts on night one. Any big surprises for you in the first round as things played out in the first round?
Well, I mean, Cleveland deciding they're not going to take one of the transcendent players that we've had in NFL history and deciding to trade out with Jacksonville. I mean, that's a pretty big shock. I thought for sure that Travis Hunter was going to go to Cleveland. I thought there was no way Cleveland would drop out of that, but Jacksonville moving up and doing that was a great move for them. They get 2-1 players. No matter how much he does of either one of them, I think he'll still do both of them pretty well. That's a big surprise. I think Booker going at 12 to Tyler Booker going to the Dallas Cowboys shocked me because I had him as like maybe a 28 to 32 player, maybe going to the Eagles at 32, and to take him at 12 at guards that are just guards don't ever go that high. And so that was a huge surprise for me, but a lot of good fits. Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers, Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles. They stay where they are and they let great talent come to them and they make great picks. That's why those teams are so good. They draft so well.
Okay. So we're taping this on Friday around noon.
Yep.
The draft resumes at 5 p.m. with Cleveland Cleveland has the first pick of the second round. Is that just pure Shedeur Sanders all the way?
So they have the first and the fourth pick in the second round. So they have a little bit of option. I would say, yes, you don't have a quarterback. You got to take somebody who can come in there. And I think Shedeur is better in terms of a day one starter than Jackson Dart is. But there's a lot of doubt on whether or not you want to bring all that show into your organization. So I wouldn't be surprised if they pass on him at 33. Now, 3 picks later, if he's still there, I wouldn't be surprised if they use the second pick they got last night from Houston to go there. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that.
What about New Orleans, though? Couldn't New Orleans kind of make a move? No?
Not for Shedeur. He doesn't fit. So Kellen Moore likes 2 things in a quarterback. 1, he likes a big arm, and 2, likes an athlete. Look at the people that Kellen Moore's had. He wants a guy who can move and get out of the pocket. And really, Shedeur is not a horrible athlete, but he's not a mobile quarterback. And so I don't think that they'd want a guy like that. I think there's a better chance that they wanted Jackson Dart than they wanted Shedeur.
Listen to him. This is the draft expert.
I love it. Since 1986, I've done draft reports and I've done draft research. It's one of my little things that I love to do. Some people play golf. I love the draft.
Did you watch it alone, Michael, or do you watch it with like a group of guys?
What I used to do is we used to travel. We would go all over the place. We've gone to Chicago, Philadelphia, Houston, and watch the draft. Now we've all gotten older, and so now we just do a Zoom together. And
it was better on a Saturday when it was just like an all-day Saturday.
Oh my God, that Saturday was so exhausting, though. We would go out the Friday night before, and we'd be all hungover. And the year the Saints traded their entire draft, I've never been so sad and hungover in my life when Mike Dickey did that to me as a draft fan, as a Saints fan. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Should we get to Nebraska?
Yeah,
let's go.
Nebraska, where are you thinking Ty Robinson goes? What's your projection for Nebraska's sort of premier player in this round of picks?
Let me tell you how I do this, and I've done this way probably more than a decade. I go through and I try to rank that position and see where that player fits. So I have Ty Robinson as a 12th rated defensive tackle, right? Okay. And then I go back and I look and I say, how many tackles have been drafted in those first 2 rounds or the first 2 days, and see how it fits. And I can tell you in 2024, last year, you had 11. In 23, you had 11. And in 22, you had 9. So I would say probably not just based off of history. I think Ty is right at the end of the 3rd round, maybe. But I think the 4th round is actually where he ends up getting picked, only because of the rankings. Now, what happened yesterday was defensive linemen, offensive linemen, and edges all went off the board at a crazy rate. I believe it was 18 total of them. So that did move them up a little bit. My official pick, okay, this is a homer pick, is that I think he goes to the Niners at pick 100. That's in the 3rd round. That's my official pick. But I think if I was going to be analytical, I'd say 4th round.
Okay.
Now, Michael, Isaiah Nayor and Tommy Hill are 2 very hard prospects to get a read on because of just different situations. Just the drops with Nayor and the way he kind of exited before the bowl game. And then obviously Tommy Hill's injury situation. What's your read on them? And do you think they have a decent chance to get drafted at least by Saturday?
Let's start with Tommy Hill, because I don't know anything about his medical condition. And as you saw yesterday, Will Johnson, who at one point people thought was a top 5 pick out of Michigan, because of his injury situation, didn't even go in the 1st round. And we don't know where he goes. So injuries is a big part. If they know something about you and it's chronic or it's degenerative, they'll move you out of there. But I think Tommy has good enough tape from the year before and then early before he got hurt this past year that I think that he still gets drafted. I haven't gone in the 6th round, mainly because I believe that there are teams out there that look at that old tape and go, as long as he's healthy and our doctors clear him, we'll take him. So I haven't gone to the Raiders in the 6th round. It's an extra pick that they have. It's a compensatory pick, so I think they use that. And then for Nayor, size and speed, Sean, I don't. You can talk about everything else. You can talk about drops. You can talk about off the field concerns, any of that stuff. I'm not saying Nayor has that, but if you're big and you're fast, they're going to take you. And right now, I have him ranked at the 28th wide receiver. Normally, about 35 to 36 get drafted some years. Sometimes as low as 28, but most times it's in the 30s. So I think that Nayor is one of those guys that goes in the 6th round. I haven't gone to the Jets. I haven't gone to the Jets in the 6th round at pick 207. So I think that he gets drafted there. It's too much to pass up when you see a guy who is 6'4", who ran the way he did with a 4.40 at the combine, and then when he went to the combine, if you look at him, he only dropped one pass the whole time he was there that we saw on TV. So I think he had a good performance there. I think that gets him drafted.
Nobody covering him. That's the thing. No,
I know. Trust me, I understand, but there have been a lot of wide receivers who can't catch the ball, right?
True.
Receivers who can't receive, who are big, strong, and fast, and they still get drafted.
What is Tommy's, when you say, when you see Tommy Hill's tape, what do you see on Tommy Hill's tape that you like? I know what I like, but what do you like?
Well, I do like his size and physicality at times when he's healthy. His problem is that he's a little stiff. If you watch him internally going laterally occasionally, he will misstep, which is not great. One of the things he also does is, you didn't see it a ton with this year, but last year you did, double moves will get him. He anticipates stuff. He wants to jump things. He wants the ball badly because I guess he's an offensive guy at heart. That kind of concerns you a little bit. But anytime you have a guy that's his size, that has some really good tape. Remember, when they asked Travis Hunter who the best cornerback was guarding him last year, he brought up Tommy Hill. If you go back 2 years ago, there were other wide receivers that said the same thing about Tommy Hill. So that's always going to be back there in people's minds. And once you get to the 6th round, it's a crapshoot. Do you think that your doctors will clear him? If they did, then you move on and take somebody who's talented.
Yeah. Michael, have you ever seen a prospect like Thomas Fidone that's so polarizing one way or the other, with the fan base particularly, where anything you put out there about him, it generates reaction one way or the other. But it looks like he's going to be in a pretty good position to go somewhere on Saturday. Yeah,
not fan base wise. I don't think I've seen a Nebraska fan base. Although I will tell you, you can go back and you look at the way people treated Eric Crouch when he was going through the draft process, and then after, when he kept trying to make it different leagues. Some really nasty stuff was said about him. A lot of talking about he quit on the team once before, and he quit on wanting to be this. And so there was some nasty stuff about him back then, but not the way the fan base treats Fidone. It is strange the way it is. I will tell you what people like about him. Again, big, strong, fast. You can't make that stuff up. When you're that size, you got that kind of speed. And for the most part, he's caught the ball well in his career. It's a really deep, Sean, it's a really deep tight end class. This is the deepest tight end class I remember. And I have Fidone as the 13th ranked tight end. That may sound low to you. They're going to probably be 18 to 20 of them go this year. So yeah, I think he goes in the 5th round. Perfect place for him is the Patriots. The Patriots will use him. They'll understand how to use him. The whole concern would be his health and those knee surgeries. And is that something they have a problem with? But if your doctors are clearing him, he's got too much size. He's got too much speed, straight line speed to get passed on. But I don't know why the fan base feels the way they do about
polarizing. There's another player that comes to mind is Adrian Martinez. He was really polarizing at the end, but not in a draft sense. Okay, Nash Hutmacher.
Yeah.
You don't see, I don't know. You see a few mocks where he's included late. What do you think?
I don't think he gets drafted. If he gets drafted, it's going to be really late. Now, I can give you one that's a possibility. The Kansas City Chiefs at 257. They follow Nebraska. A lot of the people involved with Kansas City know about Nebraska. Hutmacher would fit, I believe, in what they do. First and second down player. I think most likely he's an undrafted free agent. I haven't ranked 40th out of defensive tackles. And the most defensive tackles that have been drafted over the last 3 years is 25. So it'd be kind of hard for him to fit in there. He is a nose, I know, and they have to break it down more in terms of what noses are. But I just don't think he does. He's really limited in and some of the things he can do at his position.
Where's he limited? What are the limitations?
So one of the things that he doesn't do well is react left and right to things. If something's right in front of him, he does a really good job, especially when he's in contact with somebody. But if you look at some of the breakdowns of what he does getting off of blocks and what he's doing laterally, it's just not as good as some guys who maybe would be, maybe 290 pounds, 310 pounds. I don't know what he's going to play at either. That's another question. Is he going to try to get bigger and be solely a first and second down nose tackle? Or is he going to be a guy that's going to try to be more of a 3 technique? I put him as a nose, and I think that means he goes undrafted.
Do you see a surprise at all, like a Bryce Benhart and Isaac Gifford? I mean, Brian Buschini, maybe not drafted, but having a chance to make a team. Is there a surprise draft guy, Ben Scott, somebody that we're not talking about that, on Saturday could hear his name called or be in a good position?
I went through this and I was kind of trying to break it down. So this is not a great year for centers. And so maybe Ben Scott, who's ranked kind of 15th in terms of centers, I think Ben Scott could be a guy that maybe late in the 7th round, because remember, he's got time at guard. He's got a couple of snaps at tackle back at Arizona State. And plus, he has a total number of center snaps that would put you where you normally get drafted. So I put him as maybe a surprise. Gifford's the 35th ranked safety. Normally only about 20 safeties go. Ben Hart's the 41st ranked tackle. Only about 25 tackles traditionally go. And Jamal Banks is like almost like 97 to 100 ranked. So I don't think he has a chance.
MJ Sherman, what about him?
Undrafted free agent. I don't even know if NJ would be a priority free agent. A guy athletically enough, but it just never completely clicked for him. I don't quite know what his position is. I think he's an undrafted free agent for sure. By the way, I had a draft grade on 11 guys from Nebraska coming in right now. Corcoran's going back. What's his face transferred, the defensive end transferred. And then, it won't Butler. Thank you. Jamari Butler. So transferred. And then and then also I had Deshaun Singleton who comes back. So that should leave you with 7-8 guys who starting the season had a draftable grade. It tells you a lot. They only get 3 drafted, only get 4 drafted. It wouldn't be what you expected coming into the season, because I thought for sure they'd have at least 7 and they'd be able to go back to 2011 and get that number again. But it just didn't work out. It didn't work out for guys like Jamal Banks, who I thought would have a much better year than he did.
Well, Michael, enjoy the rest of the draft weekend, and we appreciate you taking some time to come on. I know we get your fact check text every week, so it's good to get the fact checker on the air of this.
Hey, I got to tell you, I appreciate that. I do.
Sometimes you do. Sometimes you don't write me back, and I think Sip's not happy with me.
I don't write many people back.
That's true.
He puts his phone on airplane mode more than
I know. He's told me that
shuts
before.
her down.
Yeah. Hey, I love the fact that you guys do this, and it's entertaining. When I go for my walks in the morning with the dog, we go 6 miles. It fits perfectly. It's great. So I appreciate you guys.
Well, that is super nice of you to say that. I appreciate it because we respect you a lot.
And we got to get Michael returning a punt. I mean, hopefully they
can get me out there. I want to catch a punt.
Get Johnny down there too. You got to get the Jet down there.
I will get Johnny down there. I will make sure Johnny's down there. And again, if Damon's knee is bad, he can't do it. I'll take a spot.
Hey, you're the man.
I want to do it. How awesome is that? Memorial Stadium on the field. Who wouldn't want to be doing something like that?
And Johnny could be coaching you like right there.
I mean, Johnny's doing this to me a lot, and that'd be awesome.
Man, so Damon, if your knee's hurting, don't worry about it. Michael
will take your spot. Yeah, I'm wearing tennis shoes. I'm not wearing dress shoes. Don't do that, Sean.
All right,
don't hurt yourself.
Coming from the first communion, I got to get out of my suit.
That is right. Good luck to her as well.
Hey, thank you, Michael, and we'll see you Saturday.
All right, see you Saturday.
All right. Thanks again to Michael Severe joining us here. Before we get to that again, we're brought to you by StayHome.Care here on Husker Online Headlines. Call them at 402-205-2233. Learn more about what they can do for you, your family, your loved ones. We're also brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes life is hard, difficult. You've got stuff you're battling through, and you just need somebody to talk to. BetterHelp is your way to that solution. They are there for you to listen to you and your problems. They have thousands of therapists that they work with, and they're going to find the one that matches you and your needs and what you're dealing with. The best part about it is you can do it on your own time. You schedule it, set it up on your own device at your own home. You don't have to go anywhere. It's really easy on something that's not easy to do, to find someone that's going to fit what you need. If you've never tried BetterHelp, give them check them out on their website at betterhelp.com/Husker. And you will get 10% off your first month. Again, that's betterhelp.com/Husker to receive 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Headline Show. But let's get into headline 2. Change is hard, but the Husker Games are here, Mr. Steve Sipple.
Is change hard for you in this
case? Will they like keep an official score and like I'd imagine they will.
There's a question.
Well, they're going to have a clock.
There's a question. I don't know.
Stats.
Yeah. Stats.
Would Rule maybe not want like stats put out?
Why not? I
don't know.
I'm just asking. See, change. This is change. We've dealt. I don't like to say dealt because it sounds kind of negative. We've never encountered this. We're used to showing up for a spring game. It's almost like
A real game.
Yeah, and you're almost like sleepwalking. We've just done it so many times. You don't even have to hardly think.
Well, and I mean, the routine for us on a normal spring game was like a regular Saturday.
Yeah. So
Like,
it was just routine.
We park at the office, we walk over, we sit up in our seat, we eat our pizza, talk, watch the game, go down, do post game.
So the question is, will there be pregame pizza in the press box? Are you going to go up and set your stuff there? Are you going to write there afterwards? I envision not, like going home and writing.
Yeah, I don't envision there being a lot of urgency and news that comes out of this where you're going to have to like fire something out quickly.
I don't think so either. Because the starters aren't playing is what you're getting at. And what you're getting at is if the unlikely of in the event someone went down, I don't know.
Even like a Jalen Gramstad's not playing. I mean,
Right.
Which I would have been intrigued to watch him just to see, the number 2 guy go.
I think we're going to be watching from the field, the big change, right? Interviewing players maybe during the action, big change. Interviewing maybe Troy Dannon during the action, big change. These are changes for us. Now there's changes for the fan too. Big changes. Now, what are we expecting in terms of crowd?
10 to 15,000.
Okay,
probably.
that'd be good.
But yeah, the 1 o'clock is the 7-on-7 football game, and then 2 o'clock is the portion we'll be at. And I would imagine that's going to. I don't imagine there's going to be a halftime, but maybe there will be. I don't know. 3:30 will probably get done, is my guess. I can't imagine it's going to go much past 3:30.
I don't think so. There's some things I'm like those. So what we're going to see is game action or scrimmage action, break, and then there'll be, we'll call it the fun stuff, like that strongest man.
The kickoff, the Big Red the specialist competition will be kind of fun.
Yeah, that will be fun. I think we'll get into this later. The fastest man competition, that sort of thing could be kind of fun. I think the best thing to do for you and for me and for everybody is just keep an open mind. I don't think you want to damn this thing to be a failure going in. I mean, let's just see what it looks like, right?
No, yeah. And the fact that they have mixed in real football, because initially that was not going to be the case. I think it was going to be this itinerary with no real football.
They did a good thing by mixing in real.
I mean, it'd be like going to a restaurant that only had appetizers on the menu. You're like, wait a minute, where's the main course section?
That'd feel empty. So this will give it some calories, some real calories, some good calories, some meat, right, and some potatoes and some broccoli.
It's not a small plate meal. They're going to give us a full plate at least.
Yeah, there'll be some green on there. There'll be some potatoes and there'll be some meat.
And I got to feel the punt.
Okay, you're going to do that along with Mitch Sherman and Damon Benning and Kevin Sue.
And hopefully maybe Michael Severe gets.
I would love to see them. They should have Severe
because
of his affiliation with the Jet Award.
And if Johnny's going to be down there.
Yeah. And Michael coming on our show and saying he'll field a punt behind his back is brat. I mean, that's confidence.
What worries me more about
brat.
fielding it is just simulating the trajectory of the speed of the ball. Because when it's coming from that distance, at like a 4 or 5 second hang time coming down at you, and the football is going at a pretty good rate.
Don't start overthinking it.
No, I mean, it is what it like. It's just one, you just got to take it.
Yeah. And what you could tell me is, hey, Sipple, you just bow out of this. You backed out. They asked you and you backed out. So I appreciate that you're doing it. I really appreciate that you're doing it. I appreciate that Michael is enthusiastically offering to do it and catch it with one hand or catch it behind his back. That could be kind of fun, right?
I mean, you've already had enough gifs and memes about you out there. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's gifs and memes of you going through like TSA security.
Oh God, I don't even know. I don't know about all of that. I don't see them.
The one where your hands are up like this going through the security.
You'll have to show me that one, please. Is it real?
I think Josh Peterson is probably behind some of these.
Is that one real? Was I really doing it?
It was. I think somebody took a picture of you going through the TSA security, and you had your belt off, and your hands were up. And
okay, yeah, we don't need any more of that. So yeah, here we go. I mean, we're gonna cover this, and There are actually legitimate football things that I'll watch closely, like David Huffkin on defense, like TJ Lateef on offense, like Connor Booth on offense, like Braylon Prude on defense. Braylon Prude, I don't know where he's at in his career.
I'll never think about Hoofkin. Like, we were in Belton, Texas a year ago, not even a year ago, like 10 months ago.
Right.
And they didn't know who he was. And we were down there with Evan Cooper and Terrence Knighton, who are both at Florida State now. But, we kind of pointed out to them.
You did.
That, hey, look at this German.
Not me,
look at this. This is the German guy they're talking about. And then the Nebraska staff just circled him. And
why?
Because he's literally one of the largest human beings in this program's history. I know in terms of measurements, he has the largest shoe size, arm length, wingspan, all of those things they measure. There's never been a bigger person in this program.
And then when you watch him, like I saw him in pass rush drill, and I thought, wait a second. Now, he's not super quick, but he's pretty athletic. And I always kind of thought of him as a tackle on offense, an offensive tackle, but they're gonna play him on a defensive.
He's
line.
Also really old. I mean, he's like 22 now, I think.
So what's that picture look like? I think that's someone we'll see. That now, what makes the conversation kind of clunky is we don't know for sure if we'll see him. I mean, if he's elevated to a point where they're going to count on him, we won't see him, right?
I mean, first of all, we haven't heard a lot out of spring ball, but I haven't heard any like reports, where I think he's competing with guys like, say, a Mason Goldman. I mean, those are the type of guys he's probably battling with for true reps this season.
Okay, so we'll probably see him. Braylon Prude is a similar story to us, because that was 2 summers ago.
Another satellite camp guy.
When we were in Houston, and all of a sudden you see Matt Rule talking to this tall defensive back or receiver. We didn't know at the time if he was a defensive back or receiver, right? But you saw Rule and Evan Cooper again talking to this tall kid, and then you figure
working him out,
and then you figure out, okay, they offered him that night, right?
And that's and these things aren't going to happen anymore. Like these camps, like where we've seen that, like guys like that the last couple of years, they're happening, but Nebraska's not going to go out to them because recruiting's different.
See, I got my Babe in the Woods face on right now. You can't. There's still not a place for that at all. See, I'm always going to push you on this.
You don't have the wiggle room like with unlimited spots. When they limit your head count,
okay.
You have to be careful. Yeah. Like, you can't just liberally add people.
Right. Not that they were totally liberal in that regard.
Well, I mean, they got over 150 players at one point.
Pretty liberal.
I mean, they were getting pretty I mean, they got to the point where there was like 40 defensive backs on the roster.
Yeah, that's pretty liberal.
I mean, it's like a football team of DBs.
Yeah. So yeah, you won't see that as much anymore.
So that will be, it'll be fun to see some of these new faces and what it all turns out to be. But before we get into, let's get into headline number 3. Before we do that, though, again, we're brought to you by StayHome.Care. They're there for you, your loved ones. Call them at 402-205-2233. They can help you with simple tasks, laundry, cooking, cleaning, rides, meal prep, just even companionship. If you need, if you got a relative that, having someone at the house just 2-3 hours a day really makes a difference. And they can do all those things. Call them at 402-205-2233. And we're also brought to you by HelloFresh. And you've heard me talk all about HelloFresh because they make it easy and fun to cook and eat healthy. And those are all things I think that are priorities for people. You want to cook at home, but you want it to be easy. You want it to be good. And they do that for you. You get a pick between 40 or 50 different meal options. They send it all to your house. Produce, vegetables, meats, spices, seasonings, everything you need is in a fresh packed grocery bag, and they send it in a cooler. And you can say, hey, I want 2 dinners a week for my wife and I, or my family of 4. And you can designate that, and they will send you 2 meals for 2 people, 3 meals for 4 people, whatever the number is. They make it easy, and you can pick like, hey, these are the kind of things we want to eat. We want like a steak bowl meal, or we want this kind of meal. They have all of those options, and they're really, really good. We've had a lot of fun doing it. And they've got a great deal. If you've never tried HelloFresh, they're going to give you 10 meals with the life of your order, along with a free item for life. Again, that's 10 meals plus a free item as well for life with your order. You just need to go to HelloFresh.com/Husker10FM. That's HelloFresh.com/Husker10FM. Give it a try. I promise you will love HelloFresh. Thanks to HelloFresh. Sponsors here on HuskerOnline Headlines. Okay, 3. General Manager Pat Stewart was introduced on Thursday to the Husker world. He had been hired before spring ball started, but we had not, really gotten a good read or view of Pat. We got to meet him and talked for about 20 minutes to the media. What were your general impressions?
He's an executive. He fits the profile, kind of what I was looking for. Had a presence, had a very professional manner. I didn't, you don't necessarily want to see your general manager up there putting on a show like Barry Switzer. I mean, just give me an executive,
like a goofball.
Yeah, a goofball.
A goofball.
Sure don't want to see a goofball.
A goofball or a goofball.
So
kind of fumbled the snap there.
I liked it. I liked the presentation. He's in it now. Think about it, Sean. He was in a little bit of a challenging spot. He's probably never been in a. He was the director of pro player personnel for the Patriots for the last 2 years. I doubt he ever had to do anything like that, where there's a room of how many reporters?
40
reporters. It's like, it's like the White House press corps, and it's just bam, bam, bam. Mitch asked a question. Sean asked a question. Sam asked a question. Sip asked a question. I'm speaking in third person.
Like
Amy
being asked, what are your bedside manners about cutting a player? I bet he was like, I'm not ready for that one.
Well, what the reporter was getting at is, how do you delicately tell a kid to move? You have to move on.
I still think Rule, though, kind of drives that.
Yeah,
Rule is going to lead though. I mean, he'll lead a lot of those discussions with young, and he'll do it in a very Matt Rule diplomatic way. He's not going to.
Rule has a good bedside manner.
Don't say that ever again.
Well, it was not my term.
I know, but I just.
All right, I'm sorry. Well, Rule is very. He can be very. I'll put it to you this way, Sean. He can be very direct. But as you've noticed this, you've brought it up to me. He creates soft landing spots very well in what can be sort of challenging discussions, right? Right.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're telling a guy, hey, like, this is the reality. Hey, I would love for it to work for you, but it's not going to work. And you have to figure out a way to tell that to somebody. And I think luckily this 105 thing is going to be paused, where it's not going to get as ugly with some of these cuts as we thought it was going to get,
because it's going to be phased in.
Yeah, the current players, what they signed up for is different than what this House settlement is, and what Claudia Wilkins, I'm taking your first name approach there. Yeah. What she said is like, you can't do this to these players. Like, they didn't sign up for this House versus NCAA thing. They signed up for this, and they need to be kind of protected to finish out for what they signed up for. Okay. You guys can do what you want to do down the road, but the current kids should not be penalized for this.
I think that makes Rule's job a little easier.
I think so. I mean, look, you're still restricted to 115 in fall camp. It's not like they're going to go out and just add more players, but I think you're going to at least give players more option. Like, hey, you can stay here, but you may not be on the camp roster and this and that, as it was before. So we'll see where it all goes. But yeah, there's probably about 20 kids that this week, them and their families probably feel a lot easier about maybe where this is heading.
Well, and this is what Pat Stewart deals with. This is part of it anyway. According to the school's website, when you read his job description, it is really, it's a big time job. He leads Nebraska's roster management and player acquisition, including high school and transfer portal recruiting, evaluation, and retention. You asked him a good question, which was, paraphrasing you, you are now evaluating high school talent as opposed to grown men, pros. What's that like? And he said it hasn't been that big of a transition, and he's been surprised how good and how developed the guys are at such a young age. He sees guys on defense playing with their hands more than he probably expected. Quarterbacks who know how to go through progressions, receivers who run routes well. So that part has probably been. I mean, I think it sounded like that's not been a big challenge for him.
I do think though, when you're going from watching like Georgia, Alabama tape or Kansas City Chiefs, Raiders film to like Ashland Greenhood, Wahoo film, it's a little bit of a difference.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Sure. But he's a professional, and you're looking for players that fit your current situation. Your current situation now is Nebraska. It's not the Patriots, and you don't have Belichick breathing down your neck.
And you don't also have to take as many high school players immediately. I think this model that we're heading towards is going to force more players to play at a smaller group of 5 or FCS school and kick up a notch after they play well, like Shamar Marty Brown is doing right now. And he was able to get out of North Dakota State after 2 years. I mean, that's going to be probably more the norm, but you also need, like I asked him this question, like you need to find good entry level purchases, like where you're like, okay, we're going to sign this guy on like almost like an undrafted free agent deal.
Right.
And then see the upside of what you could develop that player into. That to me will be as important as winning these transfer portal big battles.
God, it's just in one of those scenarios, you have to have a lot of patience, right? You have to have patience. You have to trust yourself that Braylon Prude is going to develop into that player you envisioned, and that there's going to be. I use Braylon Prude just strictly as an example. There's going to be hiccups, right? There's times that kid's not going to look like he can help you against Ohio State. You have to have this vision of the final product or something close to the final product of, okay, now he can help us.
Like John Bullock is a great example.
Yeah.
Like you didn't take John Bullock, and we'll talk about Gage Stenger later, but you don't take that guy to be a day one difference maker. You take him to be a year 3 or year 4 guy.
But then he became sort of a terror.
Yeah.
Like when he fully grew up, when he found the right position, I think he found an inside linebacker position that suited him very well. Now there's a lot of players like that. We're talking about a lot of players who aren't, when they come in, they're not really ready,
and the investment's minimal to get a player like that.
Right.
And you hope that your retention model to keep them is a lot more financially intact than having to go out and buy that same player in the portal later. Because if you have to go out and buy, like, let's say like John Bullock, kind of a bad example, but let's say you were trying to find John Bullock in the portal.
Okay.
You might pay double than what it would be if you developed your own John Bullock.
See there you go. That's the general manager's job. That's the sort of decisions he has to have in mind all the time.
Like
sort of conversations in his head, I should say.
Could you get, John Bullock for 150, 200 sounds a lot better than John Bullock for 400.
Yeah, right. But at his production level, when he left, he was a $400,000 to $500,000.
I mean, whatever the number is. I hate to even say these things because, I had one guy, an NIL guy, tell me this is like the numbers you hear. It's almost like somebody telling you their casino winnings. They always, when you ask the gambler how they did, they always give you a better number than really how they are doing.
Yeah. And
that's NIL. Like a lot of people, I think, fabricate what the numbers are because it benefits them.
Let me ask you this. Back to Pat Stewart, this new general manager. Do you feel like in your head have you wrapped your mind around what his job is?
No.
Really?
Because there hasn't been any acquisitions of players yet. And one thing I'll say is the recruits don't talk to him. We've asked that to recruits, and they don't really have he's not involved in the day-to-day minutia of the conversation with the recruits. Like he's overseeing it. I think Keith Williams and his team really kind of manage a lot of that day-to-day still.
He's probably doing a lot of we'll call it behind the scenes
Big
evaluation.
picture.
What about behind the scenes evaluation? Is he studying? Yeah, it sounded to me like he is studying film.
Yeah, I mean that's what his background is. But I think he's got to oversee and run the budget and the operation of what they want to do. And they have close to 30 official visitors lined up for June. So June, there's 3 weekends where they're going to almost have 8 to 10 guys in every weekend.
So I love these conversations, by the way, because sometimes I hear people, I read our message board, I hear people say, there's really not high school recruiting anymore. June will be high school.
Yeah, there'll be about 30 officials.
High school recruiting, where there'll be heavy coverage on Husker Online, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing is, the shelf life of it now is just different. I mean, people used to consume the recruiting in December and January,
Okay.
and now June is kind of the biggest month.
But it spills into July a little bit?
A little, but visits are dead.
June's big.
June's the month. Yeah, so, all right. Well, let's, before we go to headline 4, again, we're brought to you by StayHome.Care. Give them a call. Check them out at 402-205-2233. Learn more about them and their services they can offer you and your family and your loved ones. That's StayHome.Care, the title sponsor of the show. Let's go to 4. The SEC and the Big Ten dominated the first round of the draft. Of 26 of the 32 picks were from those two conferences, 11 from the Big Ten, 15 from the SEC. And, we keep hearing about the Power 2 and these two conferences.
Yep.
We've never seen a first round dominated like that, where the Big 12 and the ACC had just 2 first rounders each.
That number really hits you hard when you look at that. 15 SEC, 11 Big Ten, and then it drops off a cliff. ACC 2, Big 12 2, Mountain West 1, Missouri Valley 1. That is stark. I guess I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I don't.
Well, what it tells you is if you're a draftable, legit NFL prospect, you are going to get bought off of these lower leagues and up to the SEC or the Big Ten. And Matt Rule, when he went on his big rant about Iowa State, not Iowa State, but the Big 12 versus the Big 10, this is what he's talking about right here.
Yeah, he is.
He's like, you can, like Iowa State, God bless them. They've taken 6 Nebraska guys. That's awesome. But it's a different deal right now.
Yeah, Iowa State has 6 Nebraska high school players in its class of 2026. That's what you're saying. Also, what this backs is when Rule, and I've heard other coaches say it, that the Big Ten, even more than the SEC, is the closest thing to the NFL.
4 defensive tackles were drafted from the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think when they talk about that, and I'm just going to paraphrase or my read on it, you're talking about the size in the Big Ten and the way they play. I mean, it's a more run-oriented league. The NFL,
it's more buttoned up.
Yeah, more buttoned up. So the Big Ten's the closest. It's the closest thing to the NFL. There are now a little bit of an SEC flex, and you know me, I'm sort of SEC oriented. You don't like that about me. The SEC, I was listening to a commentator say the Philadelphia Eagles, their defense, they're too deep. The world champion, Philadelphia
Yes.
Eagles, the world champion.
To beat my Chiefs.
Yes. 11 SEC players on their defensive too deep. 11 SEC players on their too deep. So what's Philadelphia determined? We're going after SEC players.
Well, and just think now, what this will do to the scouting process even more. When teams see this data, they're going to focus all of their scouting and resources to going to those games, scouting those teams.
Yep, more.
Even more. And you're going to continue to see the players that aren't in the SEC and the Big Ten get poached even higher, because this is the postcard you send them all. It's like, yeah, you could stay there, but look at this.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, this is, and okay, again, we think out loud a lot. How do I say this politely and delicately? This is what Rule's talking about when he shifted the focus a little bit away from in-state recruiting, because you see what I'm getting at here? You can't take a lot of chances on guys that have no prayer to play in the NFL.
Yeah, when 35% of the first round is from your league.
Those are teams you have to beat. If those teams have 3 first rounders if you're playing a team on a Saturday that has 3 first rounders and you don't have a first rounder and you don't have a second rounder and you don't have a third rounder, it's not too hard to pick the winner there, right? It's not. Unless you're the plucky underdog that occasionally will beat Ohio State, and then people will say, see, they can do it. But it's just one time. Look at it over time. If you look at that scenario over time, the team that's not getting players drafted isn't going to win that battle very often.
Well, look at Iowa. Like, there have been times where it looks and feels like Nebraska is the better team, but Iowa always has 2 or 3 legit NFL guys. And those often are the guys that force the fumble, get the sack,
catch the pass on 3rd down late in the game,
block the punt
that puts you in position to kick the field goal to win, like they did against Frosty.
Even on their bad days, those 2 or 3 high draft pick guys for Iowa make the difference.
Mm-hmm. People are going to tire of us talking about this. The one way that would shut us up, shut Sipple up, shut Sean up, produce a first rounder
in the state.
Yeah, no, just on your
Nebraska
your program.
Well, like we think, like Ty Robinson, we're praising him for obvious reasons, but he's no better right now than the 5th or 6th draft prospect on the D line in the Big Ten.
That's good. You just would prefer to have a Frank Graham, who's a number 5 overall, and playing beside Graham is Kenneth Grant.
I mean, think about
who was number 25 or whatever he was overall in the first round. They had 2 first rounders playing alongside each other on the defensive line.
Think about Penn State's defense.
I think about it a lot because it's loaded.
Yeah.
It's loaded, and they had the best quick twitch player coming off the edge in Abdul Carter, and he's a difference-making player. Here's the thing, Sean. Nebraska, it wasn't that long ago that Nebraska had those type of guys. Not that long ago, 12 years, 14 years, 10 years. Randy Gregory, Levante David. I'd almost put Malik Collins in that.
Crick, Sue.
Yeah, I forget Sue. I mean, Nebraska used to have Frank Graham and Kenneth Grant. They had Sue and Crick.
Well, like Phil Dillard was a 5th round pick. I mean, you forget like players that you don't even remember.
Well,
they were better draft picks than anyone at Nebraska has been almost the last 10 years.
And Phil Dillard, that's good, but I wish we were talking more about, that first rounder, the second rounder.
All right.
But there you go. No, that was a big flex by the 2 power leagues. Big flex.
It's not changing either. It's going to be like that every year.
Yeah.
All right. Before we go to headline 5, Husker Headlines not only brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. Call them at 402-205-2233 to learn more about them and their services. Thank you to StayHome.Care, the title sponsor of the show. Also, we're brought to you by Rhoback. We got a great partnership with On3 Husker Online with Rhoback, and it's premium men's wear, polo shirts, quarter zips, workout gear. They also have women's gear as well. They have college apparel. You can buy your favorite team. They have a line of about 8 different Husker items as well at Rhoback. But we've got a deal with Husker Online. You're going to get 20% off your order at Rhoback. That's promo code Husker20 to receive the 20% off at Rhoback. I just got my Rhoback order this week. Really, really good, high quality stuff. Check them out again. Use that promo code Husker20 to get 20% off at Rhoback.com. That's RHO back.com. Thank you to Rhoback for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Headline Show. All right, headline 5, Dylan Raiola names in odds and ends, and we're going to lead off with that. And what he did, Steve Sipple, was he recognized some of the leaders of this football team, him being one of the 6 or 7 guys that have really jumped out. Who else was on that list?
Don't do this to me.
You wanted in the show. I figured you had it right in front of you.
I don't have it right in front of me, but I will have it shortly. This is awkward. Here it is. I got it.
Cam Lenhart, Dane Key, Gage Stinger, Justin Evans, Marquise Watson, Trent, and Henry Latosky.
I think what happened in that is he just kind of name what you would call a unity council or something of that nature?
The clear leaders of this team.
You don't think that there was I almost got the impression, remember when there was a unity council? Do you remember that?
They have some version of that.
Yeah. And I almost got the impression these were sort of official. I don't know that. You'd have to, that's a question for Matt rule, but I just the way Dylan talked about it, it was almost like these guys were named in some way. So yeah, Lenhart, Key. Did I cut you off?
Stanger, Evans, Marquise Watson, Trent, Latosky.
Yeah, two of them more than Stanger. I know everybody's talking about Gage Stanger. We'll talk about him in a second. Key and Marquise Watson Trent sort of got my attention, especially Marquise Watson Trent. Are we talking about a guy who's going to get 75 plus tackles on this team?
I think if you put an odds board, he could be the leading tackler of this team next year.
5'11", 225. 5'11". I don't know.
Levante David was only 6 foot.
Yeah. Oh, I'm okay with it. It's just he must have made a huge impression because Rob Dvorak called him a tackling machine the other day. So you think he'll be in the starting?
He was the Sun Belt Player of the Year.
You're looking at starter, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then Vincent Shavers and him. I mean, that's a pretty good tandem right there.
Very athletic. God, I saw Shavers. We all saw Shavers on Thursday, or maybe you didn't. I saw him. He's bigger. He's gotten bigger. That's a good picture.
Yeah, he was on the podium with us.
That's a good picture. I was outside talking to Ja'Cory Barney, so I missed Vincent Shavers. Then I saw him walking out in the hallway, and boy, that looks like a Big Ten linebacker. He's put on some good weight.
And speaking of Ja'Cory Barney,
oh yes,
he is going to take part in the fastest man competition, and that is your odds-on winner to win.
Here's what he said. I will tell you this: Ja'Cory's becoming my favorite player on the team. He's got a. Here's what he said. He said he said we're going to have a little race, and he said I'm pretty sure I know who will win it.
And you played Babe in the Woods, and you go, well, who? I know you too well to see how you played Babe in the Woods, and you're like, well, who's going to win it? Is that what you did?
No.
Did you do that?
No. I said no. In fact, I didn't. I said, who concerns you the most?
What do you mean?
I do that a lot. What do you mean? No, I do this. What do you mean? That's how I do.
On obvious things, you know the answer, but then you frustrate the person you're interviewing, and then that person just opens up and gives you everything. All part of the magic of Stephen M. Sipple.
Which teammate concerns Barney the most in this sprint? First, he said nobody really. But very confident. But if I had to say a name, he said I'd probably say Malcolm Hartzog. Hartzog. He said he knows one other guy that's going to compete, Donovan Jones.
Former track runner.
Okay. So,
see, why is Bryce Turner not in that thing? Bryce Turner ran like 100 and like 10-2 in high school.
10-2.
We haven't heard his name really all spring.
No. What? You wonder about, is it Jeremiah Charles?
Like, think if Jalen Lloyd was still here, he'd probably he'd win that thing.
Yeah. Jeremiah Charles?
He's a jumper, not a sprinter.
Okay.
Like Rowdy Bauer and Jeremiah Charles are, those are like 24-foot long jumpers.
Okay. So anyway, I think that part could actually be sort of fun. Sort of surprised that they do it in a way, for obvious reasons. You don't want a kid to pop a hamstring.
The hamstring competition.
Well, like strongest man. What's that look like? Strongest man competition. What's that look like?
Yeah. Are they doing bench or push-ups or like? I don't know. I've seen those done a lot of different ways.
I've seen them done where you like pull a semi. Well, they have a semi out on the field. Well, that'd be incredibly cool if they did, right? I just don't think you could get a semi out there.
Remember when Bill Callahan had Harleys drive on the field?
It was super cool. There's been some cool things like that. I wish I could have enjoyed.
Because Kansas State did like the Harley Day. And I mean, remember at Kansas State, and there would be like hundreds of Harleys. And
it was loud.
And so he was just trying to have some fun with his team. And he had a Harley chapter come down and drive the Harleys around the field.
Yeah. So,
and it was in the indoor complex.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
that's right.
Carbon monoxide poisoning. Who cares? I guess at that point, right?
You're not gonna get. They had the big doors open. Sean.
That's like 100 motorcycles in there, though.
What else? All
right, odds and ends. Spring volleyball match. Danny Busboom Kelly will have her debut in the Bob Devaney Sports Center against Kansas. A very formidable match. Yeah. Games on the Big Ten Network.
God, spring volleyball on the Big Ten Network. That sport's come a long way since 1985.
Yeah, spring volleyball is big. I mean, I saw UNK is hosting like a spring tournament with like 8 teams, like a spring tournament. So it's a big part of the sport, and she'll get her debut in the Bob, and you better believe there won't be an empty seat in there.
No, it'll be jam-packed. Part of the day. It's a big part of the day. There's going to be that auction. I happened to stumble into the auction yesterday because they were setting it up in the.
You mean, the garage sale, the equipment sale.
We'll call it a garage sale. Okay. I know this, Sean. Okay, this was in the Hawks Championship Center, by the way. They have a ton of shoes. Like there were boxes and boxes of shoes. So if you want some Adidas, and I'm not saying I don't think they're all cleats. There might be some like that, but
cross trainers,
all different sorts. There was an incredible amount of boxes of shoes. I couldn't tell some of the other stuff because I didn't want to walk all the way in. Like I think
I'm going over there at 1:30.
I think there would have been a sniper to take me out, but I tried to look, and it looked like there's a lot of like various kind of gear, like backpacks maybe and stuff like
I'm going over there at 1:30 to get a glimpse.
What? Today?
Yeah, just to do a little promotional content for it.
Oh, really? You gonna whip through there? Hey, let me know what's in there. It's not.
You need some new underwear or something.
I know
some new socks.
I know some people that are interested.
I'm sure. Hey,
I do.
This is everybody in America is interested in high quality gear at a discount.
Yeah,
that's everybody.
Yeah,
there's not one person that isn't like, yeah, give me that stuff on it. I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of interest in this thing.
Oh, I'll tell you what I saw yesterday, people would be interested in.
I think there's going to be some helmets for sale.
I think there's going to be a lot. It was tables and tables of stuff. Like the appeal was very evident to me right away.
And those types of things generally attract like an aggressive crowd.
Like people elbowing each other for things.
Like have you ever hosted a garage sale? We did. I think we had a lot of clothing from our daughters and stuff. And I mean, when you host a garage sale, like people are at your driveway waiting for you to open the door.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know that happens. Missing Tooth Greg, our friend, he does that estate sale thing, and he will go to an estate sale like 2 hours beforehand and wait.
And people really try to like fleece you. Like someone will be listed for $20 and they're like, will you take $2? All right.
Odds and ends
as we wrap up this show. Basketball added another transfer from Tulsa. So Fred Hoiberg adds Jared Garcia, who averaged around 10 points a game, 9.6, 4.2 rebounds, had 22 points in a game against Wichita State. He was 5 of 6 in that game from 3-point range. So not only is he 6'9", 245, he's shown the ability to hit 5 threes in a game.
Okay. As far as intel goes, Fred, I don't think you know this. I talked to a Big Ten basketball insider this morning, Sean. The Big Ten's going to be loaded next year.
Yeah, Purdue is like the odds-on favorite right now to win the title.
To be, the number one team in the country. Not the number one team in the Big Ten, the number one team in the country. Probably as many as 7, Sean, get ready for this, 7 teams in the top 25.
So the RPI in this league should be good.
Yeah.
Especially if
it will be good.
Especially if they do well in the non-con, which will allow the Big Ten to have more of an SEC type year where the SEC had 14 bids. I'm not saying the Big Ten will get 14, but you'd like to see the Big Ten maybe be in the 10 to 12 range.
Yeah. Double digits.
And Nebraska can get to that.
Yeah.
They were close to it this year, but as you say, close doesn't matter.
It really doesn't. They not when your coach is in year 7. Close isn't really.
There's not many things in life for Steven Sipple where close matters.
We've seen a lot of close around here. You know that? Football. I was over that conversation at the end of the Frost era, right?
You wrote a lot of close columns.
Oh, good God. Don't get me started.
Moral victory close columns. Yeah, they're not fun.
No. Got to get it done.
All right. Well, wish me luck tomorrow.
Well, you got first communion for
Carly.
And then all you got to do is wear some comfortable shoes with your suit, which guys do all the time now.
Well, then we're going later in the evening. We have the Pius Bolt benefit. So I gotta wear a suit twice on Saturday.
You have a lot going on that day.
Yes.
But anyway, you got to also catch a punt. You'll do fine. I'm not worried about you at all. You're athletic.
And my good friend, my best friend, Matt Moore, he's a former coach at Bellevue West. And he even said, you're right, Sean, no matter how you do, if you catch it, it's still going to look goofy. So just be prepared for that.
Well, I appreciate that you're doing it. Appreciate the other guys that are doing it. I want to see Michael Severe, and thank you again to Michael Severe for joining us on this show and giving us valuable NFL wisdom that me and you really don't. We didn't know a lot of that stuff.
No, he's great.
Yeah. So that was great. And he might even be out there catching a punt behind his back.
All right. Well, for everybody, have a good weekend. Enjoy the Husker games. We'll be back Monday with Husker Online Headlines. Thanks again to Michael Severe, Steve Sipple. I'm Sean Callahan signing off here for Husker Online Headlines.